Some jumps change your balance. Some jumps change your bones. And some jumps change the shape of your life so completely that everything before them feels like a rehearsal you didn't know you were attending. This was the day my boss jumped, and I learned that trust has weight. And falling is just another word for believing someone will be there when gravity does its worst. I told my boss to jump, and for 3 long seconds, Sophia Cooper, senior partner, $2 million architect, the woman who fired people for being 2 minutes late, stood frozen on a climbing wall 40 feet above me. Her $800 heels were abandoned at the base like a bad decision. Her perfectly tailored skirt pinched her legs, made movement awkward, made fear worse. Her hands were white-knuckled around a hold that wouldn't forgive. Hesitation if she slipped. "Jump," I said again, steady as a survey line, my arms open beneath her. "I'll catch you." She looked down at me. Maverick Jones, structural engineer, the man she barely acknowledged in meetings, the subordinate she'd never spoken to outside work hours, the same man she'd spent the last 4 hours with learning how to trust fall, because in less than 2 hours she had to stand on an unfinished skyscraper 400 feet in the air or lose everything her dead father had built. Her mascara streaked under her eyes. Her severe bun had surrendered, strands of hair clinging to her face. She was shaking hard enough that I could see it from the ground. "I can't," she whispered. "You can," I said. "If you fall, you won't. I've got you." She closed her eyes. Her lips moved, forming words I couldn't hear. Then she opened them again, looked straight at me, and said the 5 words that cracked something open between us. "Maybe falling for you isn't bad." Then she jumped. I caught her the way I'd caught wounded soldiers in Kandahar, the way I'd caught my brother when his legs gave out during chemo, the way I'd been trained to catch things that mattered. Her body slammed into mine, 130 pounds of terrified architect colliding with my chest. My feet held. My knees bent. My arms locked around her. Waist and let physics do what physics does when you respect load paths and human trust. She clung to me, not like a boss, not like an authority figure, but like a woman who'd just discovered she could fall and not die. Her face buried itself into my neck. Her heart hammered against my ribs. I smelled her perfume tangled with chalk dust and fierce sweat. Her fingers dug into my shoulders hard enough that I knew I'd be bruised by morning. "I've got you," I murmured into her hair. "You're safe." She didn't let go. For 10 seconds, we stood there in the middle of the climbing gym while other people scaled walls around us. Chalk dust drifting through shafts of sunlight from the high industrial windows. The world spinning forward as if nothing monumental had just happened. And Sophia Cooper stopped being the ice queen of architecture and became just Sophia shaking in my arms. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were red and raw. "I haven't cried in 3 years," she said quietly. "Since my father died." "How did you know?" I asked. She hesitated. "You researched it." "I research everything that matters." She stepped out of my arms, wiped her face with the back of her hand, smearing mascara across her cheekbone. "This was a mistake. I shouldn't have come here. I should have just sent you to the presentation and let Sterling win." Her jaw set. "Sterling's been winning ever since my father died. He convinced the board I'm too emotional, too attached to legacy projects. He says I make decisions based on sentiment instead of profit." "Are you?" I asked. She looked away. "The Crown Tower was my father's last design. He died before he could see it built. If I let them cut corners, if I let them strip out his dampers and hollow out his vision until it's just another glass box, then he died for nothing." I bent down, picked up her heels, and handed them to her. "Put these on," she frowned. "Why?" "Because in 90 minutes, you're going to walk onto that tower. Wearing those heels, look the developer in the eye and tell him your redesign is the only thing standing between him and a $200 million lawsuit when that building oscillates itself apart in the first reel. Windstorm." She took the shoes, hands still unsteady. "And if I freeze up there? If I can't breathe?" "You won't," I said. "Because I'll be with you." She shook her head. "The developer only invited partners." "Then make me one," she laughed, sharp and almost hysterical. "You can't just become a partner." "I can save your building," I said. "I redesigned the cantilever. I solved the oscillation problem. I did it in 48 hours while the rest of your team spent 2 weeks arguing about wind. Coefficients. I stepped closer. Promote me to senior engineer. Give me signature authority on Crown Tower. Then I'm not just some subordinate. I'm the man who stands next to you and makes sure you don't fall. She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Why are you doing this? Because 14 months ago, I walked into Harrison and Cooper, architecture needing a steady paycheck to cover my brother's medical debts. I expected to spend 2 years running numbers and sitting quietly in meetings. Instead, I met a woman who redlines drawings with a fountain pen, who stays until 3 in the morning fixing other people's mistakes, who fires people for being late because she believes time is respect. I held her gaze. You scare everyone in that office, Sophia. But you don't scare me. You inspire me. Her breath caught. I'm not asking you to fall for me, I said. I'm asking you to let me catch you. Just for today. Just until we save your father's building. She looked at the climbing wall, then the windows, then her watch. We have 87 minutes. She slipped on her heels, the click of them sharp against the floor as she walked toward the exit. Then she stopped and turned back. If I promote you, Sterling will say I'm showing favoritism. Let him, I said. When the Crown Tower stands for the next 100 years, his opinion won't matter. Something shifted in her face. Fear stayed, but determination took root beneath it. Draft the paperwork, she said. Senior engineer. Effective immediately. She stepped close, inches away. But Maverick, if I fall up there, then I fall with you. She searched my eyes. You mean that? Every word. Her fingertips brushed my jaw, so light I barely felt it. Maybe falling for you isn't bad, she said again, softer. Then she walked out of the gym, and I followed her, not knowing that in 87 minutes, the jump she was about to take wouldn't have any rope at all. The Crown Tower site smelled like welding metal and rain. Seattle was in that in-between, mood where summer gives up. Without ceremony and fall moves in like it owns the place. Clouds pressed low against the steel skeleton of the unfinished building, 47 stories of exposed bone reaching into gray sky. Sophia stood in the site trailer staring at the hard hat the foreman handed her, hands shaking, breath shallow. Put it on, I said gently. It's just equipment. My father was wearing one, she said flatly. They found it 30 feet from his body. Not a scratch on it. I took it from her and placed it on her head myself, adjusted the strap beneath her chin. My fingers brushed her jaw. She didn't pull away. Your father fell because someone cut corners, I said. Not because he was careless. Not because safety doesn't work. I tilted her face up. We're not cutting corners today. She nodded once. Outside the trailer, voices rose. I recognized Sterling's tone before. I saw him, condescension polished by years of boardrooms. This is a waste of time, he was saying to Marcus Chen, the developer. Sophia's always been sentimental about her father's designs. Sophia stepped out. The dampers aren't sentimental, she said calmly. They're structural. Sterling turned, surprised. Chen looked between them. Ms. Cooper, Chen said, Sterling tells me there are concerns with your redesign. He says you haven't been on site since your father's accident. Sophia swallowed. That's true. Because I've been in the office running simulations that kept you from building a lawsuit waiting to happen. Sterling smiled. Too early. Sophia continued. Without dampers, that cantilever will oscillate. In 5 years, you'll see fractures. In 10, failure. I stepped in. I built a physical model. It failed exactly where she predicted. Chen watched the video twice. His face drained of color. Sterling knew, Sophia said. Silence settled like a verdict. Can you fix it? Chen asked. Yes, she said. But not with his budget cuts. Chen thought for a long moment. Show me. Take me up there. Sophia went still. Sterling smirked. She can't. I can, Sophia said, though fear shook her voice. I moved beside her. Breathe. I can't. You already jumped once today. She nodded. Okay. We stepped into the open construction elevator. I took her hand, right there in front of everyone, and squeezed. Jump, I whispered. The elevator lurched upward, steel rattling, wind howling. She shook, pressed into me, breathing ragged. Tell me about the building, I said. About your father, she spoke through tears as floors slid. Past 47. The gate opened. Open air. Steel and sky. Miss Cooper, Chen called. She froze. He didn't raise a quitter, I said. Her eyes opened. She stepped out. And that was when the cable snapped. The metallic snap cut. Through the wind like a gunshot. Sharp and wrong. A sound every engineer knows. Doesn't belong in a structure that's supposed to be holding together. Everyone froze at once. That half second of disbelief where your brain tries to argue with physics. I felt it before I saw it. A sudden absence of tension where the safety cable should have been doing its quiet, thankless job. I turned my head and saw it hanging loose, cleanly severed. The end swaying slightly in the wind like a severed nerve. Not frayed. Not worn. Cut. Another crack followed, louder this time. And a bolt sheared near Marcus Chen's feet, the sound echoing across the open floor. The plywood beneath him groaned, then split. Chen stumbled, his arms flailing. One foot punching through the surface as the wind rushed up to meet him. "Edge!" Sophia screamed, her voice raw, stripped of every ounce of armor she'd built over 3 years. I didn't think. I moved. I dove forward and caught Chen's wrist just as his body tipped past the point of recovery. The impact slammed my chest into a steel beam, knocked the air out of me in a violent rush. My other hand clawed at the structure, fingers scrabbling until they locked around a bolt. Chen's weight dragged at my shoulder, fire tearing through muscle and joint. The bolt I was holding groaned, bending, protesting the sudden demand. 400 feet of empty air yawned beneath him. "Don't let go," Chen gasped, terror naked in his voice. My teeth clenched so hard my jaw ached. "I'm not," I said, though I could feel the bolt starting to give. "Maverick!" Sophia's voice cut through the noise again. I looked back. She was moving toward me, not away from the edge, not retreating from the place that had owned her nightmares for 3 years, but crawling across the plywood toward the terror that had once frozen her in place. "Stay back!" I shouted, knowing it was useless the second the words left my mouth. She dropped to her knees beside me, her skirt torn, her hands raw as she grabbed Chen's other wrist. Together we pulled, muscles screaming, breath tearing from our lungs as we dragged him inch by inch back onto solid floor. Chen collapsed, coughing, clutching at the plywood like it might disappear if he loosened his grip. I rolled onto my back, staring up, at the gray sky, chest heaving, shoulder burning. The foreman was shouting into his radio, voice shaking. "We need safety on 47 now. Now." "That wasn't equipment failure," I said, forcing myself up onto one elbow, eyes locked on the severed cable. "That was sabotage." Every head turned toward Sterling. He'd gone pale, lips pressed tight, eyes darting like a trapped animal. "I didn't," he stammered. "I would never." "You wanted her to fail," I said, standing now, pain screaming through my shoulder. "You wanted this project to collapse, so the board would force a sale." Chen pushed himself upright, rage replacing shock. "Did you do this?" Sterling shook his head too fast. "I'd never risk lives." But no one believed him. No one except himself. Sophia wasn't looking at Sterling. She was sitting near the edge, legs dangling over 400 feet of nothing, staring down at the city below like it had finally lost its power over her. I moved toward her slowly. "Sophia." She turned, tears streaking through dust on her face, and smiled. Not a polite smile. Not a professional one. A real one. "I didn't fall," she said. "No," I said softly. "You jumped." "And you didn't fall." She stood, walked to the cantilever's edge, whined tugging at her hair, and looked down again before turning back to Chen. "The redesign works," she said. "Fund it or don't. But this building will be built the right way. My father's way. Anyone who cuts corners or tries to sabotage it answers to me." Chen stared at her, then started laughing, a sharp bark of disbelief and relief. "You just saved my life," he said. "The money's approved. Build it however you want." Sterling made a broken sound, something between a protest and a whimper. The board will do what I tell them," Chen said coolly. "I own 40% of this building, and I just watched this woman face her. Worst fear to protect my investment." He looked at me. "Both of you. I want you leading this project. Titles, authority, whatever it takes. Sophia turned to me. Co-leads, she said. Equal authority. You'd make me partner? I asked. You caught me when I fell, she said. That's what partners do. Sterling exploded. Words tumbling out in a mess of outrage and threats, but no one was listening. The safety crew arrived, secured the floor, and escorted Sterling away under the foreman's watchful eye. Sophia Cooper stood on the 47th floor of her father's building, wind whipping around her, and she didn't shake at all. The board meeting a week later was supposed to be a battlefield. Sterling had spent days rallying votes, whispering about emotional instability, about reckless promotions, about favoritism disguised as heroics. He brought lawyers. He brought charts. What he hadn't prepared for was Marcus Chen, walking into the room and sitting, down like he owned it. Gentlemen, Chen said calmly, this project moves forward with Sophia Cooper and Maverick Jones as co-leads, or it doesn't move forward at all. Silence fell like a dropped curtain. Sterling stood, face purple. You can't. I can, Chen said. And I will. The vote took 4 minutes. When it was over, Sterling walked out without a word. Sophia and I stood alone in the conference room, city stretching out beneath the floor-to-ceiling windows. They're going to talk, she said quietly. Let them, I said. She turned to me. I don't know what we are. We don't have to, I said and kissed her. When we pulled apart, she was crying again, smiling through it. Maybe falling for you isn't bad, she said. And this time it wasn't a question. We walked out together, partners in every sense that mattered, not knowing exactly where it would lead, only knowing that whatever came next, we'd face it the same way we faced everything else that mattered. Together. 18. Months passed, the way storms do in the mountains. Sudden and relentless, days blurring together until you look up and realize the landscape has changed. The crown tower rose inch by inch, steel accepting glass, concrete locking into place, dampers humming softly like a heartbeat only engineers notice. Sophia and I worked side by side through it all. Long nights, early mornings, arguments that burned hot and fast before cooling into laughter. We learned each other's tells, her silence when she was calculating risk, my jaw tightening when something felt wrong. We learned when to push and when to stand back. The city watched without knowing what it was witnessing. A building going up, 2 people learning how to trust without safety nets. The day the final beam went in, the skyline felt different, like it had made room for something that belonged there all along. On opening day, the air was clear, the kind of Seattle morning that feels borrowed. Sophia and I stood on the 47th floor again, the same place where fear had once rooted her to the ground, where steel had screamed and gravity had tested every promise we'd made. She leaned against the railing, calm, steady, eyes bright. My father used to say the best buildings make you feel like you can fly, she said. Like gravity is just a suggestion. I wrapped an arm around her waist. You're flying, I said. She smiled, resting her head against my shoulder. Below us, the city moved, unaware of how close this place had come to becoming a tragedy instead of a landmark. I spent years afraid of falling, she said. Turns out the fear wasn't the height. It was thinking I'd be alone when it happened. She turned to face me. You didn't just catch me. You changed how I see the ground. We stood there as partners, as equals, as 2 people who had jumped without knowing if anyone else would. The plaque downstairs bore both our names, but the real dedication was etched into steel no one could see, in load paths and redundancies and the quiet strength of something built the right way. Some people spend their lives trying not to fall. Sophia Cooper learned something better. That falling isn't failure. Sometimes it's trust. Sometimes it's courage. Sometimes it's the only way to build something that lasts.